We're going to be looking here, starting at what's new inside of Civil 3D 2020 and not 2021, excuse me. And I'm being very particular here is calling out the .0, the initial release of the software. And as the year progresses, there'll be add-ons or updates to it, and things will be added and changed. As we look at here, just a little startup for Civil 3D and what it does and what it's supposed to be. It's part of the BIM solution for the civil side of the industry, which allows us to design roadways. It's a very dynamic, very powerful piece of software. And what we're going to be looking at here is just some of the items that change for this particular year. There is a new piece to Civil 3D for civil structures, specifically for bridge design. That has been part of the software for a while. It was introduced years ago, and it really ended up creating just AutoCAD entities. And with the implementing of InfraWorks and Civil 3D and also Revit, there has been enhancements there that I want to share on how that workflow could possibly be for you. Enhancements to pressure pipe networks as well as layout and editing. We've had pressure pipe networks for a while, but there's an awesome little update to it, which makes it be a lot more dynamic and really answers a lot of the questions that we've been wanting for a long time. I will talk about Dynamo, which is really meant for design automation and how it's integrated with Civil 3D. And if you spend some time on it to really help you out doing making your designs be a lot more quicker for layouts as far as creating geometry. And I'll show a brief portion of that. The first portion has to do with the civil structures and dealing with bridges and detailing those. And how you can start with civil with a corridor, and you can actually put in a typical section, an assembly that looks like a bridge. But what we're going to do is just work with a corridor and work with the IMX file format, which we've had for a while inside of InfraWorks and Civil 3D. We will jump to InfraWorks to lay out our bridge and start looking at the details of a bridge and how we'll be able to look at the decks and the piers and all the parts and pieces and how we're able to edit those options. And then come back into Civil and go back into Civil 3D and see how that file is dynamically tied as we move back and forth. And ultimately, for structural detailing, it can be taken to Revit. Pressure pipes have been updated, and oh man, if you've been using pressure pipes in the past, great. But what we're able to do now is have our pressure pipes be a little bit more dynamic as far as their behavior, tying into a vertical and showing up in a profile. It's amazing what we're able to do now with pressure piping, and it really shows off how Autodesk is really moving forward with this technology. We also have updates to Dynamo, and it's a programming tool. And it looks quite complex with the way you lay out and design it, but it's really easy, and it's open source. So if you find codes on the web that allows you to work with Civil 3D, it's an amazing piece of software that allows you to work a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more quicker, especially automating those monotonous design iterations and options and labelings and creating of geometry. I think it's really, really powerful, and I'll show a little bit about what we happen to have there. And that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and jump into the Civil 3D demo in a little bit. I actually want to go ahead and talk a little bit about InfraWorks, and I'll just do, it's going to be just one big hodgepodge of a demo within Civil InfraWorks and how that they're really able to talk to each other, because really the big part about it is new with bridge design. And with InfraWorks, again, the 2021, the .0 is the initial release of the software, and really InfraWorks is meant for conceptual design. Whether it's a proposed or even putting your proposed design in context, it's an amazing modeling tool. It's been around for a while, and these are just kind of the highlights for what we're able to do in this particular year release. Really pulling in geometry from Civil 3D, more dynamically tying it to an IMX. And as we're writing and reading that IMX, we're working with it to be able to really carry this data that is our bridges, moving back and forth. 4K has been enabled and now supported through InfraWorks, and we're going to be able to really look at bridge and carrying data through this IMX format, which is an Autodesk proprietary format, right? It allows for structural detailing of bridges, and we've been wanting to have that in the past, whether it was existing or proposed or just to show a bridge. And we've had abilities and add-ons, and really that's where the focus of this particular year release is, as far as Civil 3D goes, and how we're able to talk to not only the Civil platform, but also the Revit platform for architectural detailing. As we're bringing in information, what we're also able to do is choose how much data to bring on over. When you connect it to the drawing, it would just bring everything, and it was just bringing that data without a lot of control. But now you'll have options to see what you're bringing in when you choose to import via an IMX file. We're still able to connect to drawings, but this gives us a little bit more options for choice and power behind that choice. InfraWorks has been enabled for 4K optimization. So for those who are working from home and have that big screen TV in your office, or that high resolution gaming monitor that you probably are using now at home, InfraWorks now supports that. There's a lot available from InfraWorks, and I didn't do this detailing of this much of edits to what has been added to this year release, but along with that, there has been quite a bit done in the background to work more seamlessly, or it's been new or updated. A big part of it is how we work with ArcGIS and bringing in that information. Collaborating within Revit and Civil via the IMX is really the big part of this year release. And also, as we're exchanging data, 38 rules for supporting Civil 3D subassemblies and components have been added. So it recognizes corridors from Civil 3D so much better. So we're able to actually carry that data and carry that geometry throughout. For roadway design as well, because of this enhancements of this geometry that we're now able to tackle, that information is being carried a lot neater now. I didn't detail the Civil 3D page in this fashion. All these are available from the Autodesk website, and you're able to look at all the little details of what the updates are, which I'm not going to get heavily into. I'm going to be looking at the big ticket items in this year release. So as that ends up there with my PowerPoint, I'll jump directly into Civil 3D. And what I want to talk about here is just roadway design. And in this case, it is a little corridor that I have here. I'm not showing too much cut or fill here, but you can see how I have this design being placed on screen, and let's see if we can set this to a conceptual view. And it's all fill. And what I'm going to take is move this design into InfraWorks. Now, InfraWorks can connect to a drawing, but what I want to do is highlight the option over here to, on the InfraWorks tab, use the IMX export. And a little bit later, we'll be using the IMX import. As I create this, I create a singular file, and it typically places it inside of the same folder that your drawing is at. So as it writes this out, it can rewrite what already might be available out there. It is giving you the path down here and saying, hey, would you like to save this? Yes. And as you kick this out, it's going to place this file. Let's open up my file location. It's going to create an IMX for us. And as I open up where my drawing is, it's going to place files over here. There is my IMX file, which is just simple geometry as of right now. So as I take this and kick this out, let's see. Let's try this again. Export IMX, and you'll see that as it's kicking this out, it's not even asking me what to kick out or how much to kick out. It's just asking me for the path and the version of this file, and it's done. That's it. What I want to do is start leveraging this information. So I'm going to jump from Civil 3D into InfraWorks, and I have that model already created. Here's my site, and here's a row that I was looking at. I am looking at already having a proposal placed up here, and I'm going to bring this geometry. So if I start looking at the data that I brought in, all I have here is a picture and my terrain. That's all I have in this particular model. Now, we do have the option of connecting to the Civil 3D drawing and bringing over that corridor and that surface. And I have had quite a bit of problems using this particular button in earlier releases, just because of if I'm not on the same exact, not only year release, in this case 2021 and 2021, yes, I'm running both of them, but also the same version, I've had problems. But with IMX, I get the choice of writing out a particular IMX file to the version that it may be compatible. And I'm transferring data to this middleman of a file, but I'm also activating a link there. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use the Autodesk IMX file. And I'm going to go out here and point to the IMX file that I want, in our case for our session here. Let's see what's new, 2021, and there is my demo. And it shows all that it found in that drawing. Because I didn't get a choice to export out elements, it read that civil drawing and pushed out that geometry. So yes, you may have to see yourself creating cleaner drawings to only export the geometry that you want, that we choose what to kick out, because sometimes it may hang up on trying to read everything that's in that drawing. You may have to use data shortcuts and promote things to be able to have a smaller file. In my case here, all that you see was the terrain, the corridor, and the surfaces that were generated there. Notice how it brings in coverages for my corridor, which I'm going to choose to ignore. I'm not going to bring in that surface. All I want to do is bring in that roadway, that corridor. And as I hit OK, you'll see that it brings in that corridor in my model here. And I'll let it spin for a minute there. And well, there it's spinning. I know that has not been imported. This is typical for InfraWorks. You see this little imported there. You can see how the images just have been imported, but that one says still configured. When I'm getting that issue, I can just double click on it and open it up and just say close and refresh. I'm not sure why InfraWorks does this. As I say close and refresh, you'll see how that geometry just lines up right in there. And there's my corridor, showing that design here. So what we're going to do here is start implementing the bridge portion, and also just go back and forth and see how the bridge gets created in InfraWorks, how I can start detailing it here and really controlling what I see, push it into Civil 3D, edit my corridor, my roadway in Civil 3D, and bring it back into InfraWorks. So this is just the starting point here. I just bring the geometry from InfraWorks, from Civil 3D into InfraWorks. So let's take a look at messing with this. Let's add a bridge here. And you'll notice that this is the 2021 interface. For those who have been working with InfraWorks in the past, 2020 did not look like this. It wasn't until an update to 2020, if you were running 2020.1, the interface changed. Notice how we're a little bit more kind of ribbon driven in this year release. We did an update presentation on InfraWorks last year, and we talked about this. So what I'm going to do here is start looking at, creating, in this case, I want to create a bridge, and I will select my object and tell it my start station and my end station here. And here's my bridge. And let it finish that off. Come on, buddy. As this is live. Oh, I'm not sure what that is about. And here's our bridge. And inside of InfraWorks, I can start seeing how it looks like in 3D here. If I change my view from conceptual to engineering, we'll be able to see through the pier under the grade there. And looking at what I have with a slow selection, I'm able to select my bridge and start working with the components underneath it. Now, as I start working with my bridge, please note that when it highlights the bridge, it starts showing and hiding items based upon my views. Now, I've been playing with this for a little bit here, and I've been working with what I want to show and what I want to hide. There's my deck, my girders, my road, and I can enable and disable the display of certain components. We've demonstrated this in the past already, and the technology behind this hasn't changed too much, but we do have the ability to start looking at changing as we select our designs here, a singular girder or the grouping of. You'll notice inside of here I have a total of 6 based upon my design and my layout, my sizes, my dimensions for them. I can choose to reduce the number of girders inside of here. Let's bring it down to, for example, 5, and you'll see how that length there gets reduced and updated. Or if I wanted to, I can start looking at changing any of the other values for, in this particular case, my selection, which are my girders here. Or I can start looking at my piers or my other elements within this model. Notice how it'll be a slow selection or a slow double pick. I can start looking at my bearings, and per the last year release of this, let me see if I can turn off my girders so I can see through here. There are. And the last year release, we now have 3D parametric parts as well that can be designed in 3D models such as Inventor and be brought in. And they can be changed from what ships with the software. And I can change its dimensions within it, its rotations, its layout. Looking at the pier itself, I can relocate it. So once I select that as an object, I can rotate it or change its location on the screen here. So if I choose to move it to the left or to the right, or choose how many piers I have, it's an option that I have to be able to list inside of InfraWorks. This is all really old technology, but I just want to really show off that we now have a bridge component inside of here. My typical cross-section changed as well. What I'm going to do here is take this intelligent object and kick it out to something that I can play with. And as I kick this out, I'll have the option, which is new, this is the new update, is to take this 3D object out and use it in other platforms, such as Civil or Revit. So that's what I want to do here real quick. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to select my bridge again, right-click, and I have the option to publish the structure. I'm going to create a brand new design here. And let's see if we place it under our folder here for my demos. Let's see here, work stuff, what's new, 2021, bridge, and we'll call it bridge demo because I already have a bridge one inside of there. And I'll create it. Now it's publishing this into, again, an IMX file, which we'll be able to connect to. It will change my corridor, it will change my design, and I'll be able to then take it into other Autodesk applications such as Revit to do the more specific detailing of it. So this creates that actual part there. It's pushing all the 3D elements, the design behind it. And once it's done, now we can start leveraging it. How about we go inside of here to another application? Let's take a minute here and look at Revit. I'm not a Revit guy, but it is part of our collection. And what I'm going to do here is set my view to 3D, go in here to the option to insert, and let's see here, I want to insert, no, I want to look at my add-in and import the civil structures. And I'm going to bring that bridge demo in here. And it's reading that IMX file that I just created. It's dynamically tied to it as well. So if I make any changes here and push it back into InfraWorks, or make any changes into InfraWorks and bring it back into Revit, that all can update. We're not connecting directly to the InfraWorks model, but we are creating a file that we're live linked to. And as soon as that file would get updated, I can update the connection and the model will change as well. And here is the view inside of Revit. This is the actual 3D bridge that I just created. From here, I can get into structural detailing, and I can just do something simple here. Maybe create a little annotation, pop a spot elevation there, and there's an elevation for my design. I'm not a Revit guy, but just wanted to show you how we're able to leverage that 3D part, that model, excuse me, and all the 3D parts that come along with it. Let's take this into Civil 3D though. So I'm going to go back here into Civil 3D. I'm going to look at my demo over here. And what I would like to do is bring this information right on over. So what I'm going to do here is start looking at bringing that IMX file in here. I would like to show off the 3D view, which is just that corridor component, one typical cross section, and my profile up here. Please note what we have here on the screen, because what we're going to do here is from the InfraWorks tab, choose to import an IMX file. And I'm going to go here and bring my bridge demo, the one that I just kicked out. This is not pre-recorded. That was a live write-out. We sat there and waited for it to spin. And if you blink, you missed it. It kind of did a zoom extents there for me. And you'll see that it brought in my bridge. Let's see if we can change our view from conceptual to maybe 2D wireframe. And there is my bridge. How about I turn the surface off, because that's crazy tin looking like inside of there. Let's edit the style and let's turn off the triangles in 3D. There is the bridge. The one pier and the rest of the geometry behind it. I can go here to wireframe, to conceptual, and I can see that object being brought in. Take that chord, I'm going to hide it for the time being. There's my design. Now let's talk about what happened inside of Civil 3D here. What objects I have. Well, now I have two corridors. The one that I had originally that was having a typical cross-section run through and through, and the one that came from InfraWorks, the one that was modified and updated. Also, as far as cross-section goes, you'll see that was able to happen there because it looked at the InfraWorks bridge and it created a typical cross-section inside of Civil 3D. Nothing really changed as far as the profile view goes there, but I have it readily available. A brand new corridor was brought in and imported from InfraWorks. That typical section that feeds that corridor was also brought in. And I have that 3D object. As I select it, it is a bridge object. Matter of fact, in this year release, if you look at settings, we now have a new category over here. Where are you? We now have a bridge collection up here. A bridge collection and a stylization for it as well. So this is new to 2021. Now I can choose to show off this bridge here and crowd my profile view with that bridge. If I select the grid, I can go up here and say, hey, let's project objects to a profile view. I will select my bridge over here, and it reads the bridge there and all the items underneath it. It's stylized. I'll leave the style as default here. I'm not going to do anything too pretty to it. It's all going to be one color. If I had multiple bridges, I would see those. And as I hit OK, that bridge then pops here on my screen. It's adding a little bit of annotations, gets a little crowded because I'm seeing a lot of data being projected up here. But it is possible to put that geometry as it is recognized through the profile view. That is, again, from the profile view, I chose to project objects to profile view, which can include Civil, AutoCAD, and just the Civil 3D geometry, AutoCAD line work geometry, and in this case, this bridge that we brought on over. So I'm able to profile that. Now, round tripping. Yes, I pushed it out, I kicked it back in, but let's talk about changing our design, our vertical inside of here. This is a bridge. I do have a vertical listed up here. How about we take our profile and change, and let's make it a little bit higher here in space. So our bridge ends up being quite a bit higher. Our elevation, it does at least. Change some of these curves. Our bridge is left behind. This is the bridge as it came from InfraWorks. I chose to hide the other part. Let me go here and end my object isolation, because what you'll see is the two corridors that I have now. The one that I'm driving from within the software, and the one that came in from InfraWorks. Let's push this out. I'm going to go ahead and save my progress here because I've made some changes, and I'm going to export out again an IMX file, which is going to rewrite the one that I previously created, and I'm going to re-bring into Civil 3D. So let's go ahead and use that IMX export out again. I'm going to default the name, default the version, and it happens. Down here, it tells me what's going on, and then I can jump right back into InfraWorks and take a look at that roadway here, right-click, and refresh it. This should be enough. It is tied to an IMX file, as you can see inside of InfraWorks here. I'm refreshing that view, which will cause my design here to be updated as well. And as it's refreshing and updating the model here. Oh, come on, buddy. Well, let's see that again, refresh. There it is. You can see a lot more fills being brought on over. The bridge has been updated. From within InfraWorks, I do have the ability to start looking at this information, look at the profile view to see how that bridge is now looking like. If I want to go through here and start looking at my cross sections as well, I can start looking at cross sections throughout my design and see how that's looking like as well. So these are tools that have been inside the software for a while. The fact that I can see a profile and a cross section here, the fact that I can now seamlessly carry bridges is really the big update for Civil 3D and InfraWorks, and by that matter, the line of Autodesk products, including Revit, to be able to carry this information throughout. It is via the IMX file that I'm choosing to read and write to, but it's dynamically tied to it. So as I keep on exporting and writing it over, I can reread it from my platforms and dynamically update that information. So that is one of the bigger updates to Civil 3D and what has to do with models being created and how the focus was on bridges in this particular year. The second part is piping. Let's take a look at that inside of Civil 3D. Come on over here and we're going to start talking about pressure networks. And pressure networks have been part of the software for quite a while now. And what I have here is a simple Jeffries Ranch Road, just a linear tangent over here that I'm going to be looking at designing on. And let's see if I can take my surface and turn it off. That way it doesn't crowd my screen. I just want to design a line through here. Now what has changed in this year release is utility. As we create pipe networks, we have the ability of creating runs. From within one network, we can have multiple runs. So I can have my main water line and the branches off of it as I'm designing through a site. When I create this from the Prospector tab over here, a little bit different. If you're more of a right-click type of guy or gal, what I'm able to do is right-click on my pipe network and create my pressure, not pipe networks, my pressure network. Come on, Leo. By path, by layout, and from object. By layout is what you've been used to. By objects, what you've been used to having inside of here. The new option is by path, which creates an association to the geometry and the alignments and profiles as well. It's really hot, guys. So let's take a look at what we have here, because we can tie to a surface or to a profile, and that depth will be dynamic. Please note what I have here is my proposed roadway design. I have an alternate being listed out as well. And of course, I have the terrain that was created here. I do have a surface that was created and existing in the finished ground that was created inside of here. So let's take a look at this brand new option for pressurized networks. It'll be by path here, and we will call this new water. And we'll give this a name inside of here, main line. We're going to go through and let's bring in a big 12-inch pipe through here. Bringing in a surface, I will tie to my finished ground. I will create a surface profile to follow. That's what really carries the dynamic behavior. I will put a 3-foot cover, and I'm not going to set a reference alignment for right now. I'm just going to leave everything as none just to be as clean as possible here so you can see what happens. As I hit OK, I'm going to start here in plan view and give it that first location. Come on over and give it enough of an angle to give it a bend. Come on over and start looking at the option to lay out a curved pipe. I'll select that option here to create a curved pipe, and let's see if I can put a pipe around here somewhere. And from a curved pipe, I'm going to go to a linear straight little pipe over here, and let's bend and come into somebody's lot over here just to give myself a little bend there. And there's my design. It is a dynamic object. As I look at it, you'll see the linear center line that gets created there for my object. As I move it around, as I select it and right click, please know how I get alignment options. It doesn't jump directly into piping options. Please note that as I select right click, I get alignment options. However, here at the ribbon, it does give me network layout options. It is creating an alignment dynamically in the background and associating itself with it. If I look at the Prospector tab over here, as far as alignments goes, there is a design being created inside of here, and an alignment here is miscellaneous. There is my main line for my design. Little heads up on that. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let's start exploring the vertical here, because it did create some bends here for me. I didn't label them in this case, just wanted to keep it as clean as possible. But let's take a look at drawing these pipes inside of my profile view so we can start really seeing the dynamic behavior. I'll choose to draw parts in profile view, pick on this run here, and check my profile view over here, and there it is. it is a consistent depth to the surface. Now this is where I can start having fun, guys. Let's look at the prospector tab over here for my pressurized network. Let's scroll down here and let's have fun. So not for pipe networks, for pressure networks. I know that my network was set to be a particular depth to a surface. Now what I can do inside of here is not only set it to a surface, but I can set it to follow a profile. Notice I do have an alternate profile over here. And as I change that alternate, you'll see how this changes on the screen immediately. Bang. So maybe I have an alternate that I wanted to see how that pipe network looks like. Maybe I created my own minimum depth. I sketched in where I want that network to be at. Hey, what if I wanted to change that depth? Right now it's at 3 feet. Let's go ahead and have it be at 1 foot underneath my alternate. Boom, it updates it immediately there. Or if I change my vertical design, what it's supposed to be following, let's drop it, or let's raise it, or let's lower it. It's dynamic, it's immediate, guys. It's just happening. Freaking love it. All right. So that's my main line here. Let's keep working with this. And what I'm going to do is keep on moving inside of here. And let's see what else we have. Let's start looking at adding in a secondary part here. And let's create a pipe network from an object here. It's an option to continue adding runs to my pipe network. So my laterals, my branches here, I can go here and say, let's add it from object. And I have an alignment that's coming here on the side. I'm gonna pick on it, just actually crisscrossing my design. Come on, pick on my alignment. And I'm just gonna accept the default direction. And it's gonna give that pipe run a name. Let's call it branch. I'm gonna use a 10-inch, a reference surface, and a depth set surface, and an offset, just in case you don't want to run it right on the crown there. Let's go 3 feet. 3 feet cover, 3 feet offset. It is following the surface. It is creating a surface profile for that, and as I hit OK, it creates that design there for me. Now it creates a crisscross there because, well, it was going to the alignment. The alignment was going all the way to the edge. Here's my alignment. And here's my proposed design. I can back this up so it actually puts it right on top of each other and it crisscrosses. Let's go here and say, let's bring it back to the intersection where these two pipes would technically intersect at. And notice I don't get a fitting, at least not by default. Now, maybe I haven't really focused on the vertical. I just said 3 feet underneath it, 3 feet underneath it, then I moved it over to the right a little bit. I know I've been messing with my designs. My main line is 2 feet, 1 foot under my alternate. I didn't really focus on design there, not vertically, only horizontally. So what I'm gonna do here is look at adding a branch fitting. This is new. It's gonna understand what the main line is and what your branch or lateral is. As you select it, you can select who is the main line and who's the lateral. So the main line's gonna keep where it is as far as elevation, and the branch or the lateral will be adjusted. So as I activate this command here, it's gonna say, hey, who's the main and who's the side? That's gonna tell me, hey, they're not matching. Elevations are going to need to change. That's what the command line and ribbon is telling me here. I can just go ahead and accept that, and it automatically adds the correct T. If you remember through here, I designed with a 12-inch on my main line and a 10 on the lateral there, and it added in that T for me. It's awesome. Now, this awesome behavior can be added to our old pipe networks. It is possible to do that. So as I look at maybe a classic pipe network that was created, I'm going to go over here and just lay something down by hand and see how this would work out. Just the classic layout, pre-2021, we just had the option of creating a pipe network just by hand, just laying something out. It is an option. It still exists here by layout, see it? And I'm going to say old method, a little water line, which is to be smaller. How about we do a 6-inch here? I will tell it what surface to use, and I can give it a cover there as well. This is just the classic method. And I can go through here and just add in the water line, giving me that old compass there. Looks like I just put a couple 90s there. I didn't want to do something too crazy, but there it is. That's just the classic water line that we were able to create. What I want to do here is talk about this, and if you happen to have this old type of water line, right? Here's my old method. Please note that I have pipe runs for my newly laid out water line, and I have just my old method here. What I'm able to do is create pipe runs from parts. This is how we consume an older pipe network and add in the new functionality that Civil 3D has. So I can go say, hey, let's add pipe from parts. And I'm going to go through and select the first pipe here. And I can select the last pipe here. I want to make sure that I have no structures there. And as I do that, it connects the dots in the middle. I hit enter, and it gives me the option to create a pipe run for this pipe network. Notice how it just consumes what is in there, and I can just go ahead and hit OK, and that is done. Now I can see that center line alignment that was created there. It actually is creating design behind it, because if I go back here to my prospector, under alignments, under miscellaneous, I have that alignment that was newly created on the screen here for me. I have my branch, my main line, and the pipe run I just created right now. That's what we see here on the screen. So brand new technology for pressurized piping. I like it. It's going a little bit further and really seeing how Autodesk is listening to the community as far as what we've wanted to do. We've had all these parts that were not very dynamic, and we would move our alignment, move our design, and we would have to go back and keep track of everything we've done. I enjoy this new functionality that we have here, and the potential to have our designs and drafting keep up and have us really kick out a product a lot quicker. All right, so that was pressure piping there. Pressure piping, bring it on over. Okay, cool. So those are those options. And what I want to talk about here next is the ability to automate our design just a little bit. And what I want to talk about is Dynamo, which has been part of the suite of products for a while now. And it allows us to program in behavior. Now, as I open up the drawing that I want here, Dynamo, I'm just going to use what comes out of the box. It used to be a subscription piece. It used to be a subscription piece that you had to install on top of Civil 3D as an add-on utility. But in this case here, if I go to my Manage tab, you'll see that I have both my Dynamo Player and Dynamo itself. So if I kick up Dynamo, it's going to look something like this. And this is one of the routines that it has. I mean, it's crazy programming inside of here. It tells it what to do, what not to do, how to behave. It is scripting out automation. So most of that manual work, that repetitive work that you're going to have to do, creating driveways at a certain iteration, bringing in trees, bringing up pavement markings, bringing in blocks. If there is a script that you're following, we can have that happen within Dynamo. Now, it is an open source product. So if you can find this code from all the demonstrations from Autodesk or people that have been posting this, or for forums, or it is a service that Imagine offers to help you automate your designs. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and close out Dynamo here. I'm just going to look at the Dynamo Player, which is new to this release, giving you the list of options here. And this is what ships out of the box, guys. A couple of the elements that we have inside of here. I'm going to do something simple. There's this one called here, add text and circle along a corridor feature line. That's all it's going to do. Add text and circles, add labels. So instead of you having to manually go and add this, if you create a feature line or a corridor interval that you wanted to create some spot shots or propose shots, what I'm going to do here is just tell it to run that particular script or routine. And if you blinked, you missed it. I got labels on my feature lines. You can see it over here in 3D. I got labels throughout my design. This is something very, very simple. It's not a complex routine that ships out of the box, but it gives me a spot elevation there on that feature line. So maybe if I wanted to just call for not my edge of pavements or back of curbs, maybe I just want to add some spot elevations for my daylights. I can do that. The rotation and the decimal space, that's all part of the coding and the programming. I've seen people put in light poles, fire hydrants, signage at a known interval, at a key stationing, and have all these blocks, text, or geometry pop up for you automatically, especially when it's brand new design and you have a certain rule that you want to follow instead of just using an offset or a measure command. And there's so much more that can happen inside of here, guys. I would highly recommend doing searches on the web, on the Autodesk forums, or even YouTube to see how this particular piece of software can help you out. It is programming, but it really taps into Civil 3D, and if you're able to reduce that drafting even more using the software with this particular product, man, you're going to be able to automate a lot of that monotonous day-to-day things. And imagine on any one of your projects where you had to look at cross sections or plan views or profiles and had to annotate or create or insert blocks or tables. Man, this is amazing. Add on to the software where it's part of the software, and it's something that we can help you in programming as well as a service. But those are the top items that I wanted to talk about for the release of 2021, dealing with Civil 3D and InfraWorks, and the power behind bridges, the power behind piping, and the power behind programming in this particular year release of the software. So turning around here with enough time to address questions or comments, Ms. Katana?
Yeah, it looks like we have a couple questions here. First one, could you have updated the existing Civil 3D model with a new IMX file, or does it always have to create a new model?
You have to create a new model. From InfraWorks, that has to be created at least once. But as you go inside of here, you'll note that, let me pick on my bridge. Once that is kicked out, come on, structure, bridge. Now it's being funny. Let me close out of my cross sections here. Let me try to pick on my bridge one more time. Whoa. I haven't changed my mouse here yet. If I select my bridge component one more time, once I create that civil structure, I can go out there and say update existing. So I have to create it at least once, update it, and go to the needed platform, being Civil or Revit, and choose to reread or re-import that file. So I have to, from InfraWorks, choose to update that existing IMX file, and in this case, I'm going to choose Civil 3D, and I would have to go back into Civil 3D. There is no easy way of updating inside of Civil 3D. You would have to choose to reread that file over here, choose to go ahead and import it again. And because the names match, as you bring it in, they will be overwritten, similar to what we do for piping analysis. As the names match, they will be replaced.
Great. Next question. When you data reference a pressure pipe to a new drawing, do you have to bring in both the pressure network and the alignment that it creates?
Great question. I don't know. I haven't done data referencing of my pipe network for this new feature. I assume it will automatically pick it, but I have not tested it yet. I'll have to owe you that one. So, Ms. Katana, if we can figure out who posted it, we will be able to reply with an answer later.
Yep. Next question. If you open an existing drawing from an older version with pipe networks, will they update to the new type of pipe network, or is there a way to convert them, or is there potential for corruption?
No, they will not be automatically converted. I demonstrated that with this side pipe network over here that I sketched in by hand. So we still have the ability of creating pipe networks by the old method. See, these are the two old methods, by object and by layout. If you happen to do a by layout option, which I did here earlier, we then have the option of creating a pipe network from object and keeping it as is and just adding in the intelligence that is now readily available with these runs. So you are able to add in this intelligence to older pipe networks.
And can you get dynamic labels for pressure pipe vertical bends?
I believe they've always been dynamic. Let's see here, a vertical bend. I want to say yes because they have been changed in earlier, they have been redone. So in earlier releases of Civil, I know it was a problem, but this should be dynamic nowadays. So I can just go here and add a label. I just chose not to label them, but oh shoot, don't edit the design there, Leah. So that label should be dynamic as far as what it is and how it comes into with our design. What were you experiencing before to whoever posted the updating question of labels?
I haven't gotten an answer yet, but what we can do is also take that one offline.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't have
I'll
any
just,
other questions at this time, though.
okay. Labels should update as newer functionality was added. I'm not sure what release that person was on. I know in earlier releases, I think 2018 and below, the software wasn't very well aware of fittings or valves in cross sections or profiles, but that functionality was added in an earlier release of the software. So I want to say yes, that should update.
Wonderful. Well, that's it for today. We did record this. It'll be posted to our resource page, and we'll make sure that everybody gets a copy. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, guys.